Hello, I'm joined here by SM Jenkin. I want to call you Sarah, but your author name is SM Jenkins, so obviously we've got to respect that. I'm just going to read the bio on the back of Fire in the Head, which is an amazing book. In this debut poetry collection, SM Jenkin gives us a Blakean book of fire and magic. SM Jenkin is a regular performer on the UK live lit scene, has performed internationally, and has been published in numerous literary anthologies and magazines. And that is a very brief bio for a very cool poet. I actually read this again last night because I was like, I need to dig out some more questions. And it is actually so beautiful. I've written this down later as well, but it's just like nature is so alive in it, and it's such a tasty poem. Do you ever think that when you read a poem, like, oh, I like those bits? It sounds like a weird thing to say.
It's a delightful thing to say, and it's exactly everything I had hoped for and more. I really do appreciate that. That's exactly what I wanted.
I'm
That's what I wanted to convey.
I'm so glad. I just was doing the washing up and I was thinking, if poetry's taught me anything, it's that poems come exactly when they're meant to, exactly how they're meant to, and it kind of gives you an interesting idea of time. It's like in The Matrix, when Morpheus says that meeting with the Oracle went exactly how it meant to, and it wasn't meant to go any other way. Kind of, you like I said, yeah, it tells you about the nature of time in a broader sense, and you want to rush things sometimes in life, but you can't. And it's strange to think of your poems as having a place in time in the future that you can't see. Do you ever think that? Like, they're coming, I'll just wait for them here. Like,
I often do that, but one of the hardest things I've ever learned is to be mindful and to be present. Even now, I kind of find myself, oh, what will happen? And one of the processes by which I created those poems is by connecting very much with that time and place and being present there. And
hmm,
oddly enough, I find that rather than, well, what will happen in 10 years in the future, when you connect in good spirit with the place that in the here and now, people will find their own way to meet you there. They will resonate, they will find, and it's the same with any kind of writing, really. All you can do is create what you can in good faith and then let go. It's the hardest thing in the world to say, right, this is what I think. This, I will dedicate this poem and I'll write it and then let it be and let people find you. I think that's the important thing.
I love that. Do you find yourself feeling spiritual, or are you spiritual?
I am spiritual. I'm a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids, and that very much informs my work. I am studying at the moment. I'm studying to be an Ovate, which is the equivalent, I suppose some people would say shaman, but I don't kind of, I feel more comfortable using different terms. So, it's very much connecting with the spirit of place, the ancestors, things as they are, connecting with the elements and, kind of connecting with the stars above us, kind of that's the way it is. And to be present in the time and space where you are. So I often find myself connecting with looking back to the past, but paying my respects to it. Being present in the future and thinking of being past, present, and future, they all intertwine. Kind of people think of these as distinct, but I think they are all connected in the same that we are all connected. And if you just pick one space and one time and space, we will find our connections together. Does that make sense?
100%, and I love that. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be messaging you later about wanting to learn more and things like that. I kind of had this idea of time is like a carpet or like a tapestry, but we're sort of like we're not experiencing that way, but we can if we want to. But it's kind of all happened and happening. It's just kind of interesting. Can you tell me about your launch, the pamphlet with Rosemary McLeish? How was it and where was it? Because I like to sort of locate people in places and get a sense of where we are.
Yes. Do you know what I really like about you, Seti, is that, oh, sorry, I hope I'm
Oh
using the
yeah,
right
yeah.
sense, but
Please
yeah,
do.
is,
Call me
is that
whatever.
You really do. You are such a nourishing person. I think, in our own communities, there are people who are givers and takers, and people who build up the community that we work in, whether it's the poetic community or the spiritual community, or just generally, and people who don't. And you're one of the people who you nourish people and other people, and we need to take that attitude. All of us have got our part to play in that. So
I
I
hope
really do
that's the
appreciate. I know
case.
that's nothing to do with anything,
No,
but
I love
no, it's
that.
important. And look at what you're doing. You're devoting your time. So it's really important for us to do that.
I feel like I get something back doing that. Like
Yeah,
even your ideas are like, I'm gonna now go up and look up Druidism. So you've given
yeah.
me something to work with. So yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, I've found it difficult to find locations for this poetry pamphlet launch because the work that Rosemary did was very complex and sometimes difficult to hear. So it's been difficult to find a location. So um, at the moment, the only launch that we've done is at the Rochester Literature Festival, and they had the final event, and it was over in the Net and Walderslade or Weedswood. I always get a bit confused that area, but yeah, so it was very nice. It was a lovely afternoon. They had all sorts of other activities going on. Dee Dee Bergman was playing music, and it was a very lovely community event. So yes, so we were there, and myself and Rosemary's widower. I always get that's a bit of a tricky word to say. We read out poems together. So I read my poems and she read her poem. She read it. He read her poems. So yeah. So that was that. So that's it. But what I would like, because Rosie had so many connections across Kent, I'd like to maybe organise a couple of others because it's just one of these things that the more people hear about her work and our work together, the better. Because I think Rosie, she did a lot of work to encourage and mentor and nurture everyone else in the community. She's like yourself. She was very encouraging and very kind of, I think one of the things I want to do is make sure that as many people know about her work as possible.
I would like that as well. Yeah. And I
Mm.
found her very encouraging. Yeah. So what was it like working with Rosemary and how do you remember her?
It was thrilling, but also terrifying because Rosie, she knew herself and she knew her work, and she had a dedication to the craft and to honesty. And she also knew when I or anyone else could really do better. So yes, I loved it, but I loved how she had that powerful ability to be vulnerable and powerful. It wasn't this, I will brick up the world, She was when she was in pain, she was in pain and she didn't, she was very stoic about it, but she wouldn't hide it. So that's what I loved about her. And I loved how we connected on so many levels. And also I loved that we had very similar backgrounds. So for example, um we have this we're both recovering from religious upbringings that were particularly restrictive. She was Scottish, my family's Irish, and we had that whole thing about the repression involved with various things that kind of so we had a lot of similarities but a lot of differences too. But I really did appreciate that she just let people be who they are. So yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I remember being at an event, I think it might have been Words on Waves, and you introduced her
Mm.
as my wonderful, talented friend who's also a little bit scary or something. And no one, everyone took it exactly how you meant it, and she didn't mind at all. And it
Yeah.
was just like, do you know
Yeah.
what? That's exactly it. She confused me. Can you tell me about your work more generally and your work at Medway Libraries? And does that help your writing? Does your work at the library help your writing?
Yes, it does. What I love about it is that it goes beyond the access to the books. It's when people come in and they're passionate about various things and they're passionate about various writers or things that are happening. And I just love that insight in other people's worlds. I mean, obviously, like I say, I've got the books there, I can access them whenever I want. But what I find is the connection with people who are passionate about words and literature and writing, and that is what sustains me. That's what excites me. And I like, and what I like about poetry and all literature is that the ability to step into someone else's world and look at it, the world through different eyes. And it's a real ability to kind of develop empathy, but also a love for the world and the love for the people in it. So that's what I really find inspiring about being working with the libraries, because you've got people who from everywhere, and the variety of people I interact with, people I work with who are very different to me. And I love being able to say, right, okay, we're all very different, but we're all human beings, and that's what working in the libraries has encouraged me to have a love of life and a love of literature. It's all combined.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And
Mm.
I know you advocate for the libraries in this as well,
Mm.
which made me think that what inspires you?
Ah. Just mysteries. When I come across something, I think, what does this mean? Or when I learn something new. So, for example, learning about the botanist Anne Pratt, who's in here, and I just thought, oh my God, there's this whole story. It's unraveled, and I really want to explore it. I want to go through it. So anything that I learn, anything new. That inspires me to write, or just the love of a place when I connect very intensely with a particular place. I want to explore that and write a story about it. Um, and that so that's what inspires me. Histories, the beautiful place where it's so yeah, that and the intersection of both.
Wonderful. What's the best gig you've ever had? Do you have a favorite one?
I have to say, my favorite ever gig so far has been my book launch that I had in Poco Loco, because I had all my friends around and everyone was kind of, had a lot of other people performing, and it was on William Blake's birthday or anniversary of his birth, and it was just like, was it the anniversary of death? It was one of them anyway, top or tail, I can't remember, but sometimes details escape me, but it was something like that, and it was just the atmosphere of all friends being together, and finally having written a blasted book. So yeah, I
All
left it
friends
quite
being
late. So
together is the
yeah,
best thing. And I think I
yeah.
was there. It was very triumphant. What do you think of the UK live lit scene?
I've found it very hard to access it at the moment, because last few years I've been quite ill with long COVID, so I haven't really been able to get out and about that much. There's been a few things online, which is good, but I think we really could do with being more, purely from a selfish point of view. But I think people have got used to being able to do things online, so. I think it's very interesting that it's become quite difficult to find out what's happening for me. That unless you're deeply involved with it, it's kind of so I feel a bit like at a loose end at the moment. How do you think it's going?
I feel like there's things in Thanet to do, even if they're slightly bigger things. So I go
Yeah.
to Something Borrowed, which Harry Baker does, and there's
Mm.
usually an open mic, which is good, and then there's like a poet like Rob Orton or someone like that.
No. And it's difficult because especially when you've got things like either a health condition or you have children, it's very hard to kind of get that out there. So
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yes.
Who are the Medway Mermaids?
The Medway Mermaids are a women-only writing group, and they've been running since, oh my goodness, 2004, 2005. And yes, the Mermaids as a writing group have gone through a series of different ways of being. At the moment, when I was there, it was very much like, yes, and you must submit your writing, and we'll all give feedback on it, and that sort of thing. But now I think they're a little looser in their association, and they kind of they're still involved and very involved with getting the grassroots, getting women who wouldn't otherwise write at all. So that's very much their focus now. So that's good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
important. Yeah.
yeah.
Why is place important to your work?
Oh my goodness. Why is place important to my work? Um, I think to ground it and give it some kind of connection. Some people are able to write about abstract things and make it work, but for me, like with my spirituality, like with anything, I need to be grounded. I need to have a physical space to be able to say, right, this is where I plant the roots of this poem, or this is where I'm inspired. So for me, the sense of place, without the sense of place, there is no poem, there is no sense of connection, and therefore, without that sense of connection, there is nothing to say.
That's interesting, isn't it? The abstract v the details. I find the
Mm,
people do say the abstract is always harder, isn't it? And the
yes.
abstract positive, love, that's a
Mm,
hard one.
it is.
I know you speak of your poetry origin story in your intro to Fire in the Head. Could you let us know your poetry sort of origin story? When did you start writing?
Well, I did write some fan fiction when I was a child.
Yes, fan fiction.
And I would do weird things like say, what would happen if the aliens from V came up with against people in Star Trek and kind of Doctor Who, and it's like it was very odd, it was very strange. But and then when I was a teenager, I kind of stopped doing it because I was embarrassed. It was like, oh my God. But yeah, when I was growing up, it was just like that was the childish thing that you had to put away when you're an adult, and it just felt like there was nothing else going on in around in Medway. It was like you had who were the writers? There was either this big dusty waxwork exhibition in the Eastgate House with Charles Dickens, and I'm pretty sure I remember them moving, but it was just like that's literature in Medway. Oh my God. So I thought nothing ever happened. I've got to get out of town as soon as I can. And that's what I did. And then when I came back, I did the adult education course with Phil Kane, lovely fella. And it was just then. And he said, oh, yeah, the Medway poets. And I was like, these poets were here all along. Oh, I was very cross, and they even had women there as well. So it's like yeah. So yes, and then that's when things were opening up. We had Urban Fox Press starting up, and Dave Wise and the Medway Poets were doing a bit of music and all their jazzy things going on. And that's when the Medway Mermaids started up. It was nice to have. You wouldn't believe it now because you know how much I love a pub, but I was still very young and intimidated by pubs and pub culture and the whole thing of, so for me, it was good to have all of these different places where you could just start up. So that's where I started really.
I love that. That's a
Yeah.
brilliant story. I'm
Yeah.
still writing the fan fiction on Archive of Horror, and you got to love it. Um,
And it's fantastic.
yeah,
I think there's a purity to Archive of Our Own because you're writing it purely for the sake of writing it, for people who love the literature and the world that you share.
yeah.
And there's no money made out of it. So I think it's the purest form of writing.
And it helps me because it's like
Mm.
unblocking a dam. So if I just
Yes.
just write in it and then I'm like, oh, okay, now I can do some more writing. So
I'll share a secret with you. I
yeah,
still do
please do.
occasionally look at it. I
Oh
do
yeah,
occasionally. And I
I'm
really, I really think I could start up again. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm on that thing every day. Barry and Sam Fentiman Hall are sort of central to a lot of our poetry journeys. How did you meet them, and how have they helped you, if they have helped you?
Yeah, well, when they was first starting out in the ME4 writers, but the first time I ever met Sam and Barry was when they were on their first date. They came to see me do some burlesque performance in London.
That's the best story I've ever heard in
Yes,
my life.
yes, indeed. So yeah, that was like, oh, hello,
Yeah.
hello. So yes, that was quite good fun. So yeah, that was the first time we ever met, when I wasn't wearing any clothes.
If you don't
But
mind me asking, are you a burlesque performer? I guess you are. And do you still?
Um,
Or if you
I'm
don't want to talk about that,
retired now,
all right.
not anymore.
Yeah.
I suppose I could give a private performance to the right person.
Well, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about
We have got a
afterwards.
lot to talk about, yes. But yeah, and they were going about the libraries and kind of this is before Barry started working for the library, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, and they were just really cool. And I thought, well, do you know what? I just want to hang out with them. And they were doing various little projects, and there was nothing too, big scale about it. And then they kept on doing things. And I thought, you know what? I really like this. And I like everyone who's kind of gathered around the ME4 writers and kind
Hmm.
of, it was really nice.
Yeah,
So
they're real champions of writing
they
as
are.
well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's great. What does the phrase "fire in the head" mean?
Aha. Well, that's from the poem The Song of the Wandering Angus from Yeats. I went out to the Hazelwood because a fire was in my head. And it's for me, it's about that it's almost like a shamanic kind of like a or connection with the world is alive, it's vibrant, and it's we are alive, and the connection between us, it's like was it that viriditas, that green spark, that's just so extraordinary. And when I'm in the right headspace, I look out and everything is wild and connected, and the wildness is everywhere within ourselves or even out when you look out into the streets, you think, well, if that were not managed carefully, it wouldn't take too long for it to become wild again. There is that wildness everywhere. So that's what I was connecting with.
I love that idea of wildness everywhere. And I also
Mm.
like that in the book, it's this matches like the head and then the hair is so that's very apt. And it's a
Mm.
really beautiful book. I recommend everyone get it or everyone contact Sarah because it's just really beautiful through and through. Do you see your parents' stories as central to your own and do they inspire you?
Yes, they certainly do. My mother's story, I know a bit more about that. And even but even then, she was very careful to edit herself. She spoke the most beautiful Irish. And she could sing in Irish. But there's a lot of complexity when it came to speaking English and Irish, because particularly when the time she came over with the racism that she faced, um, to keep us safe, she turned us into the perfect British citizens, my brother and me,
Wow.
and never ever spoke Irish. Even after the troubles had ended, even after the 1990s, like, Mum, it's safe now, we can talk Irish. She would refuse. So, and she also did things like she burned all her diaries and her
Oh,
photographs and our photographs and all the diaries she kept in Irish. And it was just like anything that could be associated with her past or right. And she stopped telling me the stories she used to tell me when I was growing up, and it was just this whole blank. So it's it's one of these things I think where my curiosity into hidden things and hidden stories and lost stories has been inspired by her, because I almost feel like I'm an architect in my mother's life. So yeah, that's where it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I remember her stories telling me once or twice, but it was only once or twice. I'm like, am I imagining this? Am I remembering this? So that's where I like the feeling of connection to a particular place, a story. It means so much to me. It's tangible, it's real. Whereas I'm thinking, yeah. And my dad, I don't really know too much about him because he died when I was quite young. I know that he was half Irish, but I've not really had too much dealings with the family, so
mm,
I wouldn't know too much about that.
yeah.
I'm getting in touch with some of my cousins now, but it's a different kind of feeling. So yeah, yeah,
It really kills me to think of that Irish not being spoken or not being that's awful.
yeah.
It's crazy to think that sometimes you think of like racism as
Mm.
being an issue between a white people and not white people, however that may play out, whichever way around. But actually, it's important to remember that that's not not always the case, especially when you look at Irish people, because if you don't see it that it can be between any groups of people, or between white people, or between people of color, then you're basically erasing what happened to Irish people. So that was like a lesson for me to, you've
Mm.
got to understand this.
Mm, exactly. I mean, just a few months ago, we had someone coming in. He was second generation Irish, and he was singing in the Irish club where I often go, "Come out, you black and tans." And, kind of, it was a rebel song, but there were a bunch of older lads there who'd been playing music. And the silence, you could have cut it with a, kind of, it just, you could have heard a pin drop. I could see them all cringing because, that particular generation, if you went around singing rebel songs, oh my God, you would not have been seen again. And it's very hard for some of the second generation and third generation Irish here to understand that. because people like my mother's generation, they haven't spoken about it. And it's almost like it's almost like a lot of that has been forgotten. So, but for those lads, and then they went up and sung something British altogether, which I thought was the most extraordinary thing.
Mm.
But yeah, it has been, and it shaped my mother. I think she was a beautiful woman and spoke Irish, but she was almost she was no, she wasn't almost. She was ashamed of all of that, and it's very hard to kind of get past that. But you know, for me, I'm trying to learn Irish and say as a celebration and say, look, it's a beautiful language. Even if my mother isn't here to talk to me about it anymore, I still want to do it to honor her.
Mm. I
Yeah.
think we as poets, we kind of
Yes.
again light the match, and once we do that,
Yes.
everyone around us kind of, it's illuminated, and then it'll fizzle out, and then there'll be someone over here that's lit the match, and it'll go, and it, lots of little. So I think that's a positive thing. Why does Medway have so many poets?
That's a really good question. I have no idea. I think one thing is that Medway as an area has always had, well, there's a core root of people who have been there for years and always, generations, but also because there are so many people who come in. Back when it was a dockyard, there were people coming in, kind of, we've had generations and different waves of people coming in from places outside of the UK, for example. And I can't help but feel that all of us coming together um, it creates a fertile ground for sharing of ideas, expressing ideas, sharing things. I can't help but feel that has played a big part in it.
Yeah. Do you have those poems that just come out in one go and explode from your pen, like they're already in there, and all you have to do is go.
That's happened once or twice. I have to say that does occasionally happen.
Hmm.
I remember I was in a workshop once and it was a poem that I haven't quite published yet, but it just came down all in one go. It's like, oh my God, this is the weirdest thing. But I was like, write it down, shut up, just just let the pen work and just let it go. So yeah, that has occasionally happened. Other times it'll be I have the germ of an idea and I go back to it like a watercolor. You kind of put the layers and layers and layers. But yeah, occasionally I do get that
I like
yeah.
that. I wish I could do more of the watercolor and add the layers. It seems like whenever I go to add something, I
Mm.
break something else. So it's for me, it's less the watercolor and more the, I don't know, popsicle sticks or something. But yeah, do you ever write in form, and do you like writing in form? Because I think there was a villanelle in Fire in the Head and maybe a couple of other forms.
Yes. I'm trying to explore working in form more often now, because I think the discipline of it enables you to create something a little crisper and also pushes you to do something. If you're forced to meet the form, it forces you to look around for other ways that you wouldn't otherwise have expressed yourself. So I know that using form in the past has challenged me to create something unusual, a bit different, and pressed me to create something a bit more exciting.
Yeah, lovely. Sort of back to what I said before, you describe well-known things well and in a unique way. I'm thinking of Nordcap. Are you inspired by nature? Because Fire in the Head is kind of, I guess, as where the name comes from, kind of like a triumphant return to nature.
What a beautiful way of describing it. That's a really lovely way of saying it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You have a beautiful turn of phrase, I have to say. But yes, that was very much yes, absolutely. So yeah, the connection to nature is very much the thing that inspires my life, and anything that inspires your life inspires your work.
Very
So
true.
yeah, yeah.
Very true. I feel like before a poet writes the poetry and does the poetry bit, they have to actually think differently and see the world differently. And I feel like you do this in the poem Blue Tinged Anchor, which I really loved. Could you tell me more about this poem?
Ah, yes, the blue tinged anchor. So yes. Now that one, um, that was about my dad. And it was about trying to to look at rather than just saying, "Oh, my dad had a tattoo," and it's kind of like it was my memory of it, and where was it? And I thought, well, I had to write something that was true to me. Because I don't have that many photographs of him and I don't have an understanding because he always used to keep. So it's like, do I describe a tattoo or do I describe what I'm trying to see when I see it? If you know what I mean. So I thought I have to write what's true to myself, what's honest. And I think sometimes when you write something that's honest, that's what someone responds to. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
yeah.
almost like you have to start off as an alien and literally be like,
Yeah,
describing sight sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, you're right, absolutely. And look at it from a different way. You're absolutely right. I mean, I would have thought the traditional way would say, this is my dad, but kind of, yeah, to look at it from a different perspective and say, is this what I'm really seeing? And that's quite often when you look at it as if it's an alien thing rather than taking for granted what it is. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it, and that's how a lot of our work. That's really quite insightful. A lot of our work is looking at things that are the everyday with new eyes, with a fresh perspective, and say, aha, here we go. Yeah.
That's like this book I read to my kids about what is a poem, and one of the pages is a poem is when you wear your jumper inside out and suddenly the world is new. So yeah.
Ah.
What is it that draws you to a particular character to write about? Because in Fire in the Head, there's a fair few historical characters.
Hmm. Quite often, I will find the person themselves doesn't really interest me. It's um what their connection is. So I would be interested in William Blake because he was arrested in Medway. Medway is very much a focus for me, particularly in that collection. And Anne Pratt because she was in Medway. Or if there's a personal connection, so that the person themselves is it's no matter how extraordinary they are, unless I can find a connection to them either through uh like mythology or location, there's something tangible. That's how I connect with them.
Hmm. Do you think it's important to study poetry, or even not so much as a formal degree, but to go to classes, like you said, you went to Phil Kane's classes? Is that a good thing to do?
I would say yes, it's important. You don't have to get a qualification. For some people, that's they. If you need a qualification in something, it's a good idea to get it in writing if that's what you want to do.
Mm.
But for us, for me, I would say that the purpose for class is to get introduced to other ways of viewing the world, other ways of writing, and different styles and different viewpoints. That's the important thing to keep your practice fresh and also keep again your connection to life. It's like if I'm able to be in a room with people who've got different experiences, different worldviews, different styles of writing, then that will also influence my life, but also influence my writing. That's the important thing. There is no such thing as advanced. I think there's only practice.
I
So
100%
long as
agree.
yeah, as long as you practice, no matter how you do it, and that's it. You don't even have to do it regularly because, like a lot of us, life is in the way. We have jobs, we have children, and it's no good saying I every day I work 4 hours in the morning. That's not that's not realistic and it's not sustainable. Just do it when you can, as long as you kind of keep up some kind of consistent-ish practice. Just do the work when you can
Hmm.
um, and that's how you maintain a good thing. So you don't have to have a qualification. Just do the work and make sure you stay as involved as possible with
Hmm.
different things, Yeah.
I find if I do a workshop, I won't really get my brain working there and then, but it will have turned some cogs that I don't know about. And later on I'll be like, aha.
Exactly. It's the consistency of the practice. Like you say, you do a workshop and it takes a while for it to percolate all through you and to kind of connect with what you've already got going on. So, yeah.
What is it about water that is significant to you? I asked you this in the Thanet Writers as well, because it's a very watery poetry book, sorry, but water's a very powerful force. It's like the most eroding thing. But anyway, yeah, what is water to you?
the fact that we're talking about it is that we don't quite know what it is. It's such a primal force. Without water, there is no life. Water is
Mm.
life. And the way it connects all of us, we're mostly made up of water, when we cry, when we, and just everything is connected to water. And we have this resonance. I truly believe that. Like, for example, there's a tree right next to my front of my home. And because I know there's sap and water connected with that like I feel a strong resonance with that. And I'm sure that when we go back, we'll find some water dwellers in our ancestry. But I think, water is the one thing that kind of connects us, the rivers and the seas and kind of the element of water. And like you say, it can be such a mobile thing. It can be gentle and it can also be a tsunami.
Mm.
It can be so many things. So yes, it's just fascinating. Mm,
Yeah, I was reading the inbox of a submissions magazine, and I didn't realize how many people interpreted it as the womb, and I thought
mm.
that was quite beautiful. I thought, they straight away a lot of people went there, so that was a good connection as well.
It certainly is. Yes, yeah.
And I read this book about water memory. I can't prove if any of these things are true, but it's an interesting idea. This guy had these glasses, and he said to one of them, glass of water, oh, ugly, bad, etc., and one of them beautiful, special. And that was his experiment. And I know people have done things like think about something, and then the water takes the form. I mean, I feel like even if these things aren't real, let's believe them. Let's just
Yeah.
believe them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever it is they're investigating, there's some kind of phenomenon. We are connected somehow. We just don't know how or why. And
Hmm.
until someone says, "Oh, now that's it," it's going to be hard to process that or even know what it is. But yeah, I get I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And what does feminism mean to you?
It is the liberation of women and girls from patriarchy.
Hmm, I like that. That's very succinct. That's brilliant. I think if someone asked me, I'd be like, but that's generally my answer to anything. I have somehow managed not to bang on endlessly, which is so surprising to me. And I think that's everything. It's been
Mhm.
so lovely chatting to you, and it's reminded me that I need to definitely stay in touch, and I will do. I'll get back to you on that. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Oh, lovely. Take care, lovely. Have a good
Okay.
day. Bye
You
bye.
too. Cheerio. Bye. Bye.